between maintaining this alliance with the United States and engagement with China?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's really good reasons why Australia has had such a long and close relationship with the United States. It doesn't have a perfect record, and neither does Australia when it comes to human rights, but we do share a lot of common values, and you see at the United Nations what a key ally the US are in terms of human rights. But I think what's really important is, as Michael says, that Australia is going to benefit from a rules-based global order. We all will. It's in our national interest that we do that. And part of that global order is international law and international human rights law. And that should form the basis of what we're doing. So I'd be very wary about going into a closer relationship with China at the moment because of the very serious human rights abuses there and really the very weak way that Australia currently deals with those abuses bilaterally.
I'll bring Salkit back in now, and you've been listening to this, and indeed, one of the critical things that was raised by Alison was, are we going to head to a point where Australia has to make a choice? Do you think Australia will have to make a choice at some point between the US alliance and its relationship with China?
Well, my position is that Australia has already made its choice with the alliance with the United States. Now, to expand on this, I just latch on to what Michael has said earlier on about interest, that China has interest in establishing a kind of a stable relationship with Australia. Now, we are talking about interest here. Does America doesn't have interest in its alliance with Australia? Of course it has. Does America has interest in challenging China's claims in South China Sea? Of course it has. You know, we are talking about big powers, you know, staring off each other. If that is something that is expected, all right? And currently, Australia has put itself firmly in the camp of the Americans, supporting what the Americans want to do. And
well, can I just ask you, why is it expected when in a modern world we might be able to resolve all these kind of disputes by freedom of trade, freedom of travel, freedom of speech, and all these other freedoms which in a modern world might work better than simply have two superpowers with different ideologies facing off over some disputed islands in the middle of the sea?
But it's no longer the old time where ideology drives the world. Today we are talking about a new world. Like you said, it's about freedom of trade, freedom of speech, and so on and so forth. Now, China is not fundamentally against the freedom of trade, as we can see in the way that is form up FTAs with multiple countries. But we are talking about value difference here. The rest of it is, so how far is China going to open itself up to other values like human rights, democracy, and so on and so forth? And remember, we're not just talking about China, we're talking about the entire Asia. China is just one of the many states in Asia that has problems with all these values. Okay, and in the long run, it's better to have what Alison has mentioned, diplomatic channels, to make sure that we are thinking on even grounds rather than being confrontational. As far as China is doing today, it's like I'm from Asia. I speak on behalf of Asia in a way that Asia has always been lagging behind in terms of the way ideas are being generated, ideas are being imposed on them, and that is something that they always find as a problem. And China, likewise, could have that issue too. And today, America, whatever America has done, sometimes you wonder why has Vietnam or Philippines so reluctant in joining in the naval patrols in South China Sea. Okay, apparently they do have things that they have their own set of agenda that they need to fulfill.
Let me bring